nobody's here but Dennis. So moving on, any public comment outside of the formal agenda items? Looks like no. Very good. So we'll move straight to the site plan at 811 East Highway 24. So April, that's you, correct? Yes. Again. But we didn't see your site plan last time.
Well, you have it.
I know, but we didn't talk about it. So let's talk about it tonight. So you can I think you kind of described it, but just run us through it again so we know what.
Come up there.
Yeah, at least by the mic. So
It's not like I don't have a big voice.
yeah, but just in case somebody's watching.
No, I think that's great. Otherwise, it sounds like the crowd's speaking.
Yeah.
So obviously the green boxes are where we temporarily are designating where sites might be, and I'm going to tell you, we are not going to have that many. We're going to need to I think we're going to need to scoot the building up just a little bit in order to leave that clearance then in between the building and the first site. If we get 4 on each side, it's going to be doing good. I think it's just going to crowd it too much. I'm a real visual person, and I flagged it and marked it, and I'm just thinking 4, it's going to be a little bit more comfortable on each side. Below, the black down the middle there, that's the old asphalt that was left, thank you, from when it was raised. We went in and we had it chip sealed a month or so ago. When he was here doing some of the streets, we had him chip seal it. So then the gray building is the 100 by 50. Actually, it's going to probably come out to like 105 because that's the size of, he started telling me the size of lumber and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, you just put it the way you need it to.
Yep.
I'm just pulling figures. I can pull figures and I can draw, but you tell me how big. So anyway, that's going to be an enclosed building with doors at both ends. You can kind of see the little white marks there for RV and boat storage. It's kind of until you start putting things in there, I'm not sure how many we can get in there. Kind of the intention on putting doors at both sides is possibly put like 2 or 3 RVs at the front, maybe 4, kind of, we don't want to put anybody at risk or have to move things, and then put boats in the back. Kind of the intentions till it gets built. That's just we'll have basically we'll have one 50 amp hookup in there for my trailer and electricity. The rest won't have. We may put a junction box in there for drop cords, but nothing, we won't do 50 amp. There will be a walk-in door that they can enter in through and then raise the doors. The second big building is probably a year or 2 down the road. Just since we started talking about this, that big building's gone up like 5%.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting here going, what can we, it was kind of pushing us over the edge anyway, and now it's up 5% of what it was when we first got the bids. So the other building, if we do, the intentions are to put it in, it will be either a 2 or 3-sided building, so that we'd like to do 3 sides, kind of keep the snow from blowing through, but we've talked to a lot of RP people, they like to have it just completely open so they can just pull in and hook and go.
Yep.
So that's kind of to be determined, and that again won't have electricity to it. We will have to rock the road up to there or put some kind of billings or something to make that to where you don't just sink in if it would happen to rain. So, on the big building, that X, we intend on putting an LED. I can't remember what amperage it was, because like I said, those things, when I see them, I'm like, oh, okay, it's like what's on the back of our garage that lights up the whole back side of the alley, and then some, I think it lights up the street across the alley. But, and it will shine out towards the RV lots. we've changed that. You know, we keep working on this long enough, we're changing things. I have water and electric hookup at each site, but we've changed that to, kind of traveling around, got some ideas where they put one pad, and I think I included that picture, didn't I? Well, no, I think I included a picture of like, where there's one pad and two, maybe you didn't put that in there, Zach. I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's in there, it's in there.
Oh, there, just went by.
Yep.
There, one pad with two hookups.
Goes, yeah.
It saves considerably amount of money.
Yep.
Your chance of getting something hit is a little bit less. So that's possible. And I think that's from, actually from the Smoky.
I was gonna say, it looks like that's at the Smoky.
Yeah, that's actually from the Smoky. It works well, because I was like, well, how does the other side hook up? And we kind of did some measuring, and most people's cords are long enough to
Yeah.
get over there and stuff. So that pad will have two complete hookups, sewer, water, electric. Okay? This one is of the electricity and the sewer. And that's a lot to put on a paper, but the green X up on the very right-hand corner is where the power pole is, where the box will be. And of course, then it strings down to each one. We have found, and Marty's checking it out just to make sure, we stayed at a campground up in North Fork, and that guy, he uses it's not a new wire, but it's something that they're using in a lot of the parks. It's called a 250 CM. And legally, you can chain like 5 campers to it. Of course, we're not gonna have that many. But it would save, it's more expensive wire, but it's got your ground and 250, so you've got 500 pulling on there. So you're not using as much wire. So Marty's checking into that, kind of see which way, either way they're gonna be rated. So they'll have enough amperage, because Marty is really good about that. The black down the middle is the existing sewer line that we intend to tap into. We may have to come around the back side of the building, that black line that goes around the back and then comes up. If we decide to go ahead and put sewer on that side, we'll come around the back side of the building and up. We went, and you know, I know we talked about this, we went for the grandiose planned. And when we actually get to it, it may not be that grandiose, but I would rather approve it as that.
Yeah.
And then if we decide, oh, we're not gonna put sewer on that side, just electric and water, and only sewer on the one side because of cost right now, we may do that. But of course, that'll all be cleared when we start stuff with Zach. The water is up the second X up there in the corner, and that's actually pretty easy, because at some point, someone apparently had to cut through the asphalt and through the cement to do something, so there's places where we can run the water through that way and electric through there. And we know if, we plan on doing 2 channels, ditches, but if we have to, of course, the water, I mean, it won't ever cross over the sewer, so, and the water and electric won't be in the same channel, so. I think there's another one for landscaping, which is kind of, not a whole lot different than that. So there's already existing trees there along the east. There's a big tree there in the middle. And of course, once the sites are put in, the area in between will be returned to native grass. We'll be putting some trees in once we get it in and see where to put trees that they won't get ran over all the time. So the idea is for the people to come in on that black down the middle, and those are probably gonna slant instead of be straight, because I think it'd be easier to, you know, once we did that, we're like, oh, maybe we should slant it. It'll be actually easier to back into it if it's at a slant than at a straight angle. That cement pad, I believe, is $60 62 feet. And so they'll be parking off that. That'll be the main road into there. There's also some cement that's kind of on the north, to the west of the main drive. Yeah, and so here's the deal. We had the college survey, and it's completely off of what we thought it was, so we may trade something with SCR, because he doesn't even have a car path on the west side of his building. That's actually his. So, anyway, but there is two cement pads there above that, could be utilized if it should be full, which I don't think it will be, just for dry camping. I don't see it ever being used that way, but it would be there just in case. So, I do intend on putting posts like you saw at the utility units, and then one in the front of each site to mark the sites so they know where to pull into. And those will have dusk, you know that word,
Dawn.
dusk to dawn LED lights on them. So, I know some of that talks about having, I don't know what you define as sufficient lighting when it talks about it in the plan. In a campground, to me, that's more than sufficient. Which those would probably be. We've been at campgrounds where we accidentally left our lights on, God forbid, they're not the big bright LEDs, and somebody's like, "Hey, shut your light off." Anyway, of course, to the north is Highway 24. The gray on both sides are the roads. The road to, basically the roads from what they marked out, and I want to see his drawing, are mostly the extent of our property. And so those are, I guess those would be considered easements, both of those roads. So, anyway, questions? Did I cover what you
Chair,
wanted?
do you have on the plan an identified area as far as refuse or trash?
Yeah, up in the very corner, it says dumpster. And I put it up there because, I don't think, do I get to pick where the dumpster's gonna be?
Well, it has to be accessible for the company, I'm
Right,
sure.
right. And so that's gonna be kind of based on that. That would be a perfect area. As people are pulling out, they can walk over
Oh,
there.
there it is, on that one, on the landscape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they can walk over there and put their trash in there.
Okay.
So,
I don't think I have any other questions. Grady?
I don't have any.
And
Yeah, does that go through the
go through his review of it.
review? Yep.
okay.
Okay.
Am I-
I think you're good. Thank you.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. So we got the name of the project, the address, the boundaries, the date, the north arrows. She's depicted on her plans, as well as what we've seen in the last previous meeting with the other pictures that I've shown you guys. We have the name and the address of the owner. We have already reached out to all of the other owners of the abutting properties due to the previous meeting. All existing lot lines, easements, and right-of-ways were included in the last meeting's packet with the other pictures. She's also kind of described them on her own drawings. There is no existing buildings on this property, so pretty easy for that one. We have the location of all present proposed public and private ways, driveways, sidewalks, ramps, curbs, fences. The location for required parking areas. She has that with her RV sites for the campers as well as them being parked off of the road as well, so you don't have to have any additional parking for that. And she also had already mentioned the concrete, so if their truck were to hang out, they could unhook it and go park on the concrete and keep it out of the way. She's got the lights marked down on there where they will be. She explained that they will be on also the utility hookups as well to provide additional lighting for them. There's really no proposed signage for anything yet. If we get to that stage further on, then we definitely will go through the sign permit process, but that's something that I would handle. Wouldn't have to bring it to you guys. She did mark on there where the kiosk would be, which would be about the only signage that's proposed as of right now, which would be sufficient. Landscape plan showing you what the trees were and what she plans on doing. She's got all of the existing and proposed utility system lines marked out on the previous plan there for utilities. Plans to prevent the pollution of surface and groundwater. That's what the utility hookups are for, to prevent sewage from getting spilt out. And then they also plan on leveling the land out, which we've already discussed at the previous meeting. The existing and proposed zoning district boundaries, we went through all of that at the last meeting. The traffic flow patterns weren't really shown on there, but it's been discussed and it's pretty obvious to see what they will be from the design of the plan. 16's not really applicable. The design standards, which is B, it's not located in the downtown, so we skip B and move to C. C is actually numbered, I believe 7 is what, or 9. That's the architectural design creating visual interest. Well, the buildings have a variation of detail, form, and sitting to provide visual interest. I've included on there what their proposal was for the building, so it'll look like a commercial building out there. It will have the metal that has the little curves and dents in it, so. The loading docks, which there are none, trash enclosures, outdoor storage, all of that was incorporated into the design, which she has included in the plan. The building, let's see. So at least 20% of the length of the building, once you include the ribs and everything on that metal, it would be up to the 20% there. Windows, awnings, and arcades. There's nothing going to be at the public street. All of the buildings are going to be set back off of the street. And then CE, not applicable. And then for number 10, they're not doing masonry. They're not having glass walls. There's no wood going to be exposed. And then no concrete finish other than the floor, which that'll be all paved already, like she's already talked about. And then metal panels, which would apply to this because it will be a metal building, so.
Is at the end of that form, there was,
Yeah, the 10E would be the last one.
okay.
Do you have any questions?
So I guess based on all your findings, Zach, everything looks like it's in order and in place. Nothing you see that's
Nope.
outlined? Okay.
They've got all the utilities marked separately, like she said, doing 2 trenches to prevent the sewer and water lines from crossing in case there ever was a leak with the sewer. It doesn't contaminate the water source. So that's really all my major concern was, making sure that the sewer doesn't run underneath the building, which is why they have it going out around it.
Okay. Any questions for you guys?
Here's the only question, if I have a question, is, on entry and exit out of that area, is there gonna be enough room for,
Technically, a second drive over there, they could come on. But yeah, there's plenty of,
Okay.
and it's almost, it's 60 feet
okay,
across there. So, yeah.
yeah, I didn't know if he had to make it, I don't know, how they widen it, that it wouldn't turn in with a bigger vehicle, I didn't know if that would be an issue or not.
Do you need to come in the highway?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, no, it's
Yeah.
plenty big enough, yeah. We've got two big driveways there.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
It was designed for that hotel, so they already had the expanded curb cut done.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Okay, anything else, guys? So do we need a motion to approve, or is it, okay. Yeah. All right, so I move that we approve the site plan for 811 East Highway 24 as presented.
I'll second it.
All right, moved and seconded that we approve the site plan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Okay, motion passes. Go get to work, April.
Good night, Derek.
No.
You can't find dirt,
I believe it.
so we may, I mean, that part of it may just, I think we're gonna come to that, the west side is where it's like,
Yeah.
slopes down pretty good. The east side isn't quite as much. So,
Oh, where there is dirt, but I don't know if it's open to the public. Further down there.
we talked about that, because when we first, I can't remember, 27 yards, is that, Mr. Rose, that what we talked about, that original? I think we're gonna go, probably cut some of it.
What number did you say?
Was it 27?
You have 2,700 square
Cubic
yards.
yards or square yards? Cubic yards or square?
Cubic yards.
Cubic yards. Oh, yeah, that's a lot there.
That's a lot of dirt, probably.
There's a lot of the area on the west, when they raised it, it needs leveled out and cleaned up and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I don't know if when they raised it, they did it, but there's been two kind of water channels just naturally go through there
Yeah.
that need to be filled in, because they're not natural water channels that need drainage or anything, we'll have that taken care of, but yeah, it's been
Good.
dirt, so that's kind of the next step, and now that we've got this, we can
All right.
at least start moving in one direction. Thank you guys, I appreciate it.
You bet. Looking forward to
Yeah.
seeing your project come together.
Yeah, yeah, we're excited about it. It's been long enough now, it's kind of like, oh, we
Yeah.
can hope the year.
Keep moving.
Yeah.
All right, moving
Thank
on.
you.
Thanks, April. Yep.
Thank you.
Proposed ordinance for the text amendment to chapter 9. This is Zach, I take it. All right.
I've been working on putting this together since we obviously found all the issues between chapter 9 and then the zoning regulations, but they will have to be a little bit separate because it's two separate sections.
Okay.
So chapter 9 is basically going to be the entire chapter because it referred to everything as house trailer.
Or trailer camp.
Trailer, well, house trailer and trailer camp. And I've reworded it to say RV park and recreational vehicle.
Okay.
This is a little PowerPoint, so you don't gotta go through everything.
Thank you. Because I went through it on my iPad and I thought, oh man, this is going to take a couple times. So I appreciate the PowerPoint.
All right. Current proposed, that's obviously what currently is in the code, the proposed rules of what it will be changing to. So instead of saying chapter 9, mobile homes, campers, and house trailers, it'll say chapter 9, mobile homes and recreational vehicles.
If it's approved.
Yes.
That's the proposal I'm presenting. 9101, The definitions under the current ordinance create conflict with the current zoning code, and by deleting the current definitions and adding the proposed definitions, it'll create language that is similar between the ordinance and the zoning code. That way it's easier to regulate and to approve things when we come across them like we had last meeting.
Yep.
Little hard to read, there's a lot to it. So the current definition is camp is a trailer camp. That's gonna get deleted because we're not gonna have trailer camps anymore. House trailer will be deleted. Trailer is a vehicle equipped with wheels and normally towed over the road behind an automobile or light truck. That is compiled into recreational vehicle, so we won't need that one. Trailer advertising is a trailer. I don't know why that was mixed into this section, but I'm proposing that we get rid of it because it has nothing to do with said items. And trailer camp, obviously, that's the one we ran into the issue, has to have 5 acres or more, short-term parking located in the R1, R2, and R3 district. And then trailer, hauling is a trailer, defined above and designed as normally used for over-the-road transportation of belongings, equipment, merchandise, livestock, and other objects, but not equipped for human habitation. So I don't know why that one was in there either, because it doesn't really concern either of the titles in the titles. Items in the title. So what I've proposed is to add to the definitions camping space, which is an area used with a tent or similar temporary apparatus used for recreation or vacation. That way it covers all things of an RV park, not just the recreational vehicle size of it. A park shall be in reference to the collective mobile home park and/or RV park. A recreational vehicle or RV is any of the following vehicles which are licensed for travel on the highway: a travel trailer, which is designed to be used as a temporary dwelling for travel, recreation, or vacation, or one permanently identified as a travel trailer by the manufacturer. A pickup coach, which is a pickup that has the camper built onto it, not so much the removable ones, but it's designed that way. And then you have a motorhome, pretty self-explanatory on that one. And then a camping trailer, which covers a pop-up camper or any of the multitude of styles of campers we have today. A tent is a collapsible shelter of fabric such as nylon or canvas, stretched and sustained by poles and used for camping outdoors or as a temporary building. When we move to 9102, there will be changes to the title. The language will be changed from trailer camp to RV park or recreational vehicle. And then combining subsection C and D and removing subsection E. So the title will be location of is currently location of mobile homes and house trailers. A doesn't really change other than the wording of it, just to get rid of house trailer, adding RV. B won't really change, that's mainly for mobile homes. C and D will be combined. A mobile home or a recreational vehicle may be occupied other than in a mobile home park for a period of not to exceed 30 days when a permit is secured with a later subsection of this section. I went through it with Jake. And then E is a house trailer may occupy a mobile home space in a park for a period not to exceed 30 days. And then provided that there's a service building occupying the camp itself. That's kind of going to get discussed further on when we get to the service building section of it. 9103 and 9104. Came to the conclusion just to repeal 9104 in its entirety, which I have on the next section here. That is a camp license. That'll get addressed further on in the code when it comes to the fees and everything like that, when you're actually applying and then getting your license to operate the park every year. 9103 is for park license. That was just really changing the language in it to make it match RV park and mobile home park. That way it's not saying trailer camp or anything like that. 9105, changing the title language again to make it match throughout the section and the rest of the chapter. Otherwise, there wasn't any major changes for it. In that second box in the current, it is referring to subsection 9102D, which we got rid of and combined into C. So on the proposed one, you'll see that it just says C, not D, so we're not referring to a subsection that is no longer there. 9106, changing the language. This is where the license and fees and all of that stuff will get put into. This is a pretty long one, so I believe they're on two separate slides. This is what our current section has. It doesn't really have anything for a camp. It does have the prices for our mobile home parks to apply for their license every year, determined by how many spaces they have. So on the proposed one, I have created something similar to add the fees for the actual camp as well. I don't think it's necessarily the same to charge them similar items, but to make it a little less for the camps because they will be providing different sources of income. And then they'll also get hit with taxes for every single individual person. It's not a long-term stay to where it's just going to be there. This is also where the temporary permit thing comes into play for C, which is not to exceed a period of 30 days upon the payment of a fee of $5, and then you cannot obtain the permit more than twice in a 365-day period. That way we're not just having campers paying $5 to occupy empty lots throughout town. (9107) added language to make more clear and cover what is defined in the definitions. Basically just adding RV parks to the current one, not really changing anything around too much. (9108) changing the language to remove trailer camp, include RV park. And then since we are digitalizing a lot of things, instead of getting plans in triplicate and taking up a lot of room and space we don't have and killing more trees, duplicate. That way we can just have one paper copy of it and then another actual digital copy of it.
Giving my eyes a workout tonight.
9109, rename the section to apply mobile homes being moved into a park, must comply with the current code and follow the guidelines for this chapter, and 2 sets of plans, not 3. This really just defines that anytime you move a new mobile home into a mobile home park, you will have to have it approved. That way it's not just taking subpar trailer mobile homes, not trailers, into the park, so we can kind of clean those up a little bit as we move along here.
Will it run from January 1st to December 31st, or from the time they make application?
For their license,
Yeah,
for the mobile home park,
yeah.
yeah,
It's on a calendar
yeah,
year.
it's on a calendar year.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe it
Gotcha.
comes up in June, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Change language from house trailer to recreational vehicle and remove the reference to 9102D because it's hopefully not gonna be there. This is for 9110. Other than that, everything else pretty much stays the same in this. This is just the application for a trailer camp or an RV park or a mobile home park.
Makes you dizzy.
Yes. And then 9111, changing the title from park camp location to RV park mobile home park location, and then changing the language to RV park from trailer camp, and then removing the R3 district since we do have one currently, and I foresee it being a while before we actually develop an R3. Other than that, everything stays the same in that section. 9112, changing the language again, and then added camping space square footage. That way we're not getting somebody in the future who wants to do an RV park just for tents and then having them all piled on top of each other. That way there's room. Other than that, everything else will stay the same. The proposed space for camping space is just 500 square feet. 22 and a half, a little over 22 and a half by 22 and a half, so I figured that was more than ample enough room to set up a tent, have a picnic table, park your vehicle, all of that. (9113), changing the number of spaces served to require a service building. We discussed in the last meeting that smaller RV parks don't necessarily need to provide a service building. My proposal is that any parks, RV parks serving or intending to serve camping spaces and or 11 or more recreational vehicles shall be provided with a service building. Obviously, all camping spaces, because they're gonna be in tents, they're gonna need a place to go to the bathroom.
Is there a definition of the service building? I think last time we talked about it had like a male and female and showers and all that, or,
That all has remained the same,
okay.
other than the fact you have to have 11 or more spaces to be required to have the service building.
Do you think that's appropriate, Grady, or?
I don't know, I mean, I'm not sure. I don't do a lot of camping, RV camping, so I'm not really sure what they use. Like Rachel had mentioned, a lot of times they use their own facility, you know, their own RV, so I'm not sure.
I think we probably want to keep, at least offer some, this day and age, you can't say men's and women's very easily, but, you know, something separate, because, you know, I was thinking about my family and camping, it's nice for the girls to have something separate from the
Yeah.
boys. So, I don't think I would want to change the way it works right now. I'd still like to push for that. I like the idea of smaller spaces not needing the building, as Zach proposed.
And then also it has in the language, which was in the current language, anything over 20 for another 20 would require another.
Yeah, so as you get bigger and bigger, you need more and more facilities.
I see.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense, yeah.
And not that they need to be in separate buildings, you could just put that all into the same space as long as it doesn't get the distance away from it that it's required, which I believe is 500 feet. That way it's easy to get there. 9114, just change the language from trailer camp and to RV park and house trailer to recreational vehicles. Otherwise, it remains the same. That's related to the water. Same thing for 9115. This is for the sewage, just stating that there should be a sewage hookup for spaces. That way, if they choose to use their own facilities, they have a place to dump it, because our town does not have a dump station. 9116, there were no changes to this one, but I still put it up here for you.
That's good.
This garbage and refuse storage, that way there's an actual thing in here for it. This does state that it does need to be screened to prevent overflow of garbage and stuff like that from possibly scattering, not that it's gonna stop all of it, and then also keeping it out of the sight of people. You don't have a community garbage can going on.
If you don't mind, I have to walk from out here previous one with the really first site. Does that count for the sites that offer, dumpsters?
That's gonna be anything that's in the future, so anything that's already there would be considered a,
Grandfather,
yeah, I can't think of what the language says it is, but if you were to remodel or anything like that, then you would have to get those for those stations. (9117), changing the language from trailer camp to RV park, house trailer to recreational vehicle again. This regards insects and rodents. Nothing really changed in here other than the adding of 8 inches in height opposed to the 12 inches of height in vegetation, because that's what city code requires, is 8 inches. And if you're gonna be in city limits, you should have to comply just as everyone else does. (9118), electricity, same thing, just changed the language around and then added 50 amps for the recreational vehicle spaces within an RV park, because that's what most campers are requiring nowadays, to have sufficient power to them. Otherwise, you can run your fridge and blow the fuse breaker with the coffee pot at the same time. 9119, this really doesn't pertain to the trailer camp RV park, but there was language in there for it. It's mainly referring to the mobile home parks. That way they have ways to heat their home other than electricity if they choose to do so. It does state that if it were to be offered by an RV park, they have to comply with the same rules as a mobile home park and have it the same setup and up to code. (9120), just changed the language from trailer camp to RV park and house trailer to recreational vehicle. This regards the register, which KOA does wonderful because they have their website that keeps all that information logged for them. That way, if there ever was an issue and the police needed information, or if we needed information, we would be able to obtain that information. (9121), same thing, just changed the language in it. And this really only pertains to mobile homes and a recreational vehicle if it were to be parked in a mobile home park, because I don't foresee anybody building a porch onto their RV at an RV park.
stay away, that's
Yeah.
It's strictly against our quality assurance.
Yeah.
When they come in, they crack down on it.
And then this also kind of covers that was already done in the future code, because we have a requirement of 22 feet wide by 40 feet long for any manufactured home, which would technically be a mobile home. This just states that if it's been there since July 18th of 1972, which was already in the previous code, that they can continue to maintain that there as a grandfather, but if it is removed for more than 30 days, then they have to comply with the current code. If they replace it within the 30 days, they are allowed to put a single wide back on there. And then 9122 only pertains to mobile homes, so there was no changes to this one. And 9123 removed the jail time from the penalty and just left it a fine, because I don't foresee anybody pursuing that method of punishment for something like this. Otherwise, it's still not more than $500, but every day the violation continues is a separate offense, so the longer you let those violations build up, the more it's obviously gonna cost to hopefully prevent people from breaking the rules. And that was the end. Do you have any questions?
It looked good to me as I read through it, but I'm glad you did it in that PowerPoint form because it did help me wrap my head around it a little better. So,
Which I also included a bullet list and everything, so if you guys want to continue reviewing it before you give an answer, make a decision or anything like that, the only thing I can say is on 9106, the last bullet point there, crossed off. I forgot to delete it before I sent it over. And then also on 9109, same thing, that last line, the last bullet point crossed off.
okay.
And then we'll move to our zoning regulation. Does anybody have questions about that or further discussion before I continue boring everybody?
No, I think it's good. I appreciate you going through that, and it went in my mind the way I thought it should have went. So, yeah.
All right. This will be for 19202 and 19502T, which 19502T covered RV parks already. So really, I just kind of added things into it. That way it all makes sense when you're reading through it. You don't have to really bounce back and forth too much. If you find it in one spot, you're gonna find it in the other just the same way. 202 is the definitions. No definitions were removed, but we did propose adding definitions to it, which would be camping space, recreational vehicle or RV park, and then tent. And that way, all the language is similar throughout. Subsections 1, 2, and 3 of 19502T, no changes were made. When we get to 4, this moved to the current section of 5, subsection of 5. And there's now landscaping yard requirements. So what the current part that you see won't be repealed in its entirety. It's just moving to a different subsection of this subsection. And it will now be all yards and other open spaces not otherwise paved or occupied by structures be sodded and or landscaped and shall be maintained in compliance with this code, which will help with insects, rodents, that kind of thing. T5 will now be T15 further on later down, which we will discuss. And this is now the area requirements and setbacks, so everything that you saw in the previous current is now going to be what's proposed for T5. And then what's currently now is a central office or convenience establishment with an attendant shall be provided within the park to register guests and provide service and supervision in camps of excess of 5 acres. So smaller camps that don't sit on 5 acres won't have to provide a central service office. But that will be moved to T16, so we're not getting rid of it, it's just rearranging it a little bit. T6 is now going to be the regulations of roadways and spaces. The current is the application process for it, which will just get moved further on. Some of these numbers might be wrong, and I apologize, because they get confusing going back and forth reading all of it. But the proposed 4T6 will be the identification of roadways and spaces, basically just saying each space in the park is clearly marked. That way it's easy to find, and or if there are issues, the police, ambulance, and fire department can get to that space. T7 now regulates the lighting requirements. The subsections of T7 were added into different areas of the code. So 7A was added into 6, 7B was added into 7, and then 7C was moved to T4. So this is where I came up with the 0.3 foot candles of general illumination, which isn't lumens. So I apologize for my comment earlier. There is a difference. Foot candles is what hits the ground, and lumens is what comes off of the actual light. T8, pretty much everything after this up to the sections that got moved further down are just copied out of what Chapter 9 says. That way you can find it all in one place. This is in regards to the service buildings. So the same thing as earlier, anything over 10, you have to have a service building for, and just the same stipulations throughout it. T9 is the water supply. Ten is sewage disposal. 11, garbage and refuse. 12, rodents and insects. This also includes the vegetation growths in excess of 8 inches in height. 13 is electricity. I took out the 110 volts because this is just pertaining to the campsites, which only need to be 50 amps. So that's the only difference between the wording in Chapter 9 and this one, because this is just for RV parks and the zoning. And then also, all electric wiring must be underground to prevent anybody from hitting it with their camper or anything like that, blowing down, possibly causing injury or harm to the people that are staying there. 14, the register of guests. 15, the central office. 16 is what was in 6. Just the application requirements, so if anybody decides to open another RV park or anything like that, they'll just have to follow this process. Which, everything that we just went over in the site plan review is everything that should be included in the application. And that is all.
Very good.
I went through that one a little faster, I'm sorry.
But it pretty much mirrored, well, not pretty much, it did mirror. So that's what I was looking for is, I want them to basically feel like the same document, and it did to me. I guess it all made sense. Like everything flowed the way I thought it should have. So good job. Yeah.
I have one question on so I'm thinking like requirements for electricity. Is it a requirement to have a post to prevent people from backing into those utilities and stuff like
There
that?
is no requirement for that
Okay.
currently, which that could be added into it.
Do you think that would be a benefit, or you think that would be something? I'm just
I will refer to Sean here and see what he
It would
thinks.
very much be a, benefit, especially for back-end life, because it was probably last month, we had a water hydrant just ran over, and they ran over at about 2 o'clock in the morning when they came into the park, and we did not know about it till 9 o'clock the following morning, because they decided not to call the after-hours number. It flooded the park up to that point, so it would be beneficial to, if not a post, just something that will,
Some barrier.
some barrier in between. Or just some sort of reflective, so that when they back in, their lights are shining off it, so they can clearly see it being there.
Okay.
That's probably not a bad addition, some sort of a safety measure.
We'll have to see if it's worded. We'll find another example of it.
Yeah.
And when you say 50 amp, are you talking about, 50 amp plug-in or 50 amp power altogether in the market? Because some of ours are just 30 amp, but, our new ones are 50, 30, 20.
Which that would work just fine.
Yeah, because not every RV has, smaller RVs won't have a 50 amp plug, they'll have a 30 amp plug. So that 50, 20, 30 is a nice, then it doesn't matter, whatever they got, it'll work. Yeah.
Which we can add that into the language in both of these sections, that way it covers everything.
Yeah,
They usually won't have 50 amp, they have choices.
right.
So any camper that has
It's gonna be a 30, yeah.
And pretty much any 30 to those lots, they're going to be a 30 amp.
It might even be a 20.
Yeah. Guys, any other questions for Zach?
No, that's good.
Cool.
And what you may want to also add to the definition is fifth wheel and, full cover.
So given that we've got a couple little edits here, they're not major things, but assume we probably want to leave the discussion open until those are done, look at it one more time, and then recommend going to the commission, or should we?
It's up to you. It's not currently in ordinance form, that is one thing. I mean, it's just the proposed changes
Yeah,
in list form for you. And really the recommendation, you can do either way. You could recommend the text amendment to the city commission with the changes as discussed. Or you can say, can you bring it back, staff, can you bring it back next time? With the changes that have been requested and also in ordinance form, and then we will do it at that time, at the next meeting. It's not an urgency right now to get it done by the end of the month, so, it's whatever you're more comfortable with.
so my feeling was, I'd like to see the finished product that we're gonna take to the commission, and then recommend to take that, so we have everything for them together at once.
Okay?
And we get a look at it before we take it to them, not that
Sure.
my genius is gonna find anything in there, but
No.
I just feel better like all of our I's are dotted and T's crossed before we go to the commission if we go that way. You guys would agree?
Yeah, it'll avoid a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
They see what, they're gonna get what they see, so.
Yeah. All right, so can you do that for us, Zach, for our next meeting? We'll
Yep.
have it in ordinance form plus the additions we had tonight, and we'll take action at that point.
Sure.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, moving along. Discussion items. Long-term stays. So assume that's around the piece at the end here from KOA, is that right?
That's the actual questionnaire that the applicant completed.
I can print that off.
Like page 57 is the question.
Yeah, page 57 of it.
I was there once and went clear to the top of my document, yeah. There it is.
It's a long document.
All right, so I guess walk us through this and what we need to know.
You can go ahead, Sean, or I can introduce it, whatever you would like.
Just to introduce myself, I'm Sean. I work with KCN Campgrounds. We're the company that owns the Goodland KOA. We have been approached by some of the harvesters that are currently staying at Mid-America Campground, and they are wanting to stay at the KOA. And we were brought to our notice that we cannot have long-term stays at our campground because of the way the current code is, that they have to be, and they can only stay for 30 days max. So we're approaching and asking for, because it does have in the code that the building inspector can approve us to have guests stay for long terms. And so that is what we're asking, is that we would currently dedicate 8 to 10 RV sites for the purposes of staying over the winter season. During the, they're here for the harvesting. And they would be part of our back expansion. So they do have frost-free hydrants there, and we would require that the guests that stay there also have heating hoses, so that all the preventative is done from there being any damage to the hydrants or to their campers, or just for the whole winter process.
This wouldn't be just for harvesters, though, if people or anybody who needs to extend a stay.
We would open it, but our understanding is we would have to limit how many that we would have staying at the campground.
Yeah, in order to approve it, or it, it basically says, short-term occupancy shall not exceed 30 days except as approved by the building official. And what Zach and I discussed as far as, one, to have this questionnaire, but then also have some parameters regarding long-term stays and not leave it open-ended. Sean included on this 8 to 10 RV sites, so that's approximately the number they're looking at. If it would expand beyond that, they would come back to us and have
Get another approval.
another approval on it.
And we would have someone who would come in and do like snow removal. We do have the managers who would be staying there. There possibly would be times where they would be off the campground for like Thanksgiving or Christmas, but there is a after-hours phone in which they are able to be reached in the event of emergency. And all the sites that we are saying that we would use would be full hookup sites, so they're water, electric, sewage, and they would have to be self-contained units, because our bathrooms, for the most part, won't be available for them.
It starts operating differently if you leave it open-ended as far as number of people.
Yeah.
And without management on site. Now, obviously, they could operate all the way through the winter they wanted with short-term stays if they wanted, but with this situation, it was more, one, let's try it out.
Yeah.
Make sure it works.
See if
Right.
it's gonna work, yeah.
And then, and two, get through a process of how does the building official approve this, because there's nothing stated in the code, so, or exact limitations within the code, so.
Well, one thing I see too is having the 8 to 10 sites kind of fits in with the other ordinance with not having to have a service building.
Right. Yeah, with the service, I agree. Service building gonna be closed down, then you gotta stay within what our other guidelines are, that we need to keep it small.
Right.
Yep.
And what we'll also be planning on adding to our electric pedestals as meters, so that we're charging the guests the same rate for their electricity. Because if we don't have it metered, then chances are they're not going to use the propane in their camper, and they're going to ring those bills through the roof.
Yep. That's a good idea.
I don't know if this pertains or not, but is there anything with pets or anything that we need to be concerned about or anything?
we do have pet parks on the campground. We have 2 of them on the campground. And there are pet waste stations in both of them. Our front one, which is a larger park, has 2 pet waste stations, and then one in the back, which is a smaller one, has pet waste stations there. And we also have the 2 dumpsters throughout the park as well. With pet waste stations, I believe we currently have, I want to say we have 2 pet waste stations positioned throughout the park, apart from the what we call Camp Canine.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, like, so like, you know,
It's not gonna be for the full year or something like that. I don't see why we would have to license with the city.
uh,
But if it were to turn to something like that, then definitely.
They're still subject to the
The same rules.
same codes
yeah.
as far as number of animals, type of animals. That all still applies no matter what, so.
Just curious.
They couldn't keep a buffalo there.
Oh, unless they came in on a wagon.
It's a service animal.
Hey, I had a service rooster at one of the parks that I worked
Oh,
at
boy.
in North
Oh.
Carolina.
Why does it have to be a rooster, right?
Right.
That made a lot of people happy.
Yeah. So I guess any action that's needed from us,
No, we just wanted to present it to you. And do you see any complications for the building official? I was just trying to get feedback from you before the building official made his decision.
I think you cleared the hurdles I would have had. Number of people, and I like the Sean, your piece in there that you guys don't do long-term leases. It's only month to month.
It is.
That's good to see. You know, that way.
The reason for that is so that we're not setting up a landlord-tenant situation.
Yep.
So we don't have to go through eviction process
Yep.
if we have to ask a guest to leave.
Makes sense.
Well, I guess with that, what is the timeframe that they can come back for another 30 days?
So they're able to the time frame right now is between November and April, and they can renew it throughout those 30 days. But as soon as, did we decide on April or May? Because I thought we had,
We talked about May 1st.
yeah, May 1st. And then as soon as it came to May 1st, then they would have to leave.
Then they become basically just a regular KOA.
Yep,
camper
and
at
we
that
would
point.
charge them at a overnight rate
Yeah.
versus a extended
rate.
stay rate.
And
yeah,
they
or
won't want to
month.
stay the whole.
Yeah, they'll move on then.
Yeah. Because we're not known for being the cheapest, but we do provide a lot of amenities for that.
Yep. Looks good to me. You guys agree?
No problem.
Zach, that clear as mud for, okay. Well, personally, I'm kind of excited to see something like this come together. I think there's a little bit of a need and, you know, a few around to see if it works.
Absolutely.
Might be a way for a little revenue in the wintertime, plus provide another service for the city, so that's a good thing.
And it'll provide more people into the community,
Yep.
which will ultimately be more tax revenue for you guys.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Cool, thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so next piece is sidewalks.
And we just included a paragraph in the manager memo regarding it. We've come across language that makes it difficult to regulate sidewalks. There's a section that gives one width, the zoning ordinance gives a different width.
Okay.
Well, that is an immediate complication.
Yep.
We also have a number of streets that are actually labeled in the comprehensive plan, making it hard to enforce these rules and regulations, the language is also unclear whose responsibility it is to maintain the sidewalks and how they should be placed throughout the community. This is a pretty big topic. As I'm talking about this, or right before this, I'm thinking, what would you like to see in order to kind of frame the discussion? The width is one thing that we need to take care of, is just like a text amendment like we did with the other one. But then regarding sidewalks in general, it would really help if it was clarified in the code, and then if we would have a text amendment to make it much more clear what are the rules regarding sidewalks, because at this point, I don't think it's completely clear. So, what could you see that would help frame that discussion? Or which points are important for you guys as far as the discussion on sidewalks?
So I think you got most of it called out, but what the dimensions need to be, where they need to be, what happens if you take one out, and then whose job is it to, I guess, repair and replace, maybe.
Yeah.
We need to have something with, like, location, and, like, cause somewhere around the edge of the street.
Yeah, that's
somewhere
kind of
in the
what
middle.
it was getting at. My second point there, like where do they need to be? Do they need to be at the street, or do they need
Okay.
to be in the, in the yard, or do they need to go with the flow of what's established in the neighborhood? Because I could see, if I was a homeowner and I wanted mine at the street, but the rest of the neighborhood was in the yard, might be nice to have some rules on, hey, you need to follow, don't create a huge diversion or a dead end for someone, kind of thing.
What we might do is set up a little matrix or a little spreadsheet showing, just like how Zach put it in as far as each section,
Yeah.
but based on that 4 or 5 criteria. When,
So ADA requires 36 inches, and if it's under a 5-foot sidewalk, every 200 feet, you have to have a passing area. So if 2 wheelchairs or mobile scooters were to come up next to each other, they wouldn't have to, drive into somebody's yard or run off into the street. So that's kind of the confusion on that one. Do we make it just 5 foot, or do we limit it to the 3 foot and then
I
pass
think
in
you,
spaces?
I would say bare minimum, so, the ADA standard.
So 3 foot and then every 200 feet have a passing space.
But as a homeowner, I would really object to having to put in a 5-foot sidewalk. So,
The other question, I don't know, maybe I'm not speaking out of turn here, but when you were talking about location, I was thinking, does every residence need to have a sidewalk? Should it just be right side of the road? They need a sidewalk.
yeah, I see what you're saying.
Not both sides of the road. Do we need that? I don't know. That just kind of, just so we do have a walk path on that road. It doesn't need to be on both sides.
So that could almost be written into sort of the minimum standard. If you're using ADA as a minimum standard, then you need to have at least one walk path on the street as a minimum. Both sides would be better, but
Right.
if you have one, that's a win.
I believe it's included in there.
Is it?
I think, right? I don't think I reprinted it off, but
no,
it says arterial and,
Yeah, that's.
Well,
what it
yeah,
that's-
says.
based on street
Yeah,
classification.
sure, streets.
but then we're gonna have to classify more streets, cause in the comprehensive plan, page 56, it only has a few of the streets labeled. not all of the streets.
Well,
So,
you're only gonna have a few arterial and a few collector, and the rest of them are all residential. Local, that's the name of, they like to use it,
yeah,
that language.
I think that's probably part of it is that it needs to be spelled out what the city views as arterial and collector. And like you said, it's probably not very many, but it should probably be in there
Right.
so that there's no question in the future about who's who. And then if it's not listed as one of those, then it's a local.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Main is the only arterial street. And you have Arcade, Cherry, Caldwell, 19th, 17th, 12th, 8th, 4th, 2nd, Armory, and Eustis labeled as collectors.
Which use
Makes
this
sense.
as a string.
Yeah. Eustis probably. All the other ones make sense. Maybe it was just because it's boundary.
Yeah, probably.
That would be my
And
guess.
Eustis, doesn't that go to the hospital?
No, that's clear on the, Eustis is clear on the east side of town.
East End.
Oh, okay.
That's our last street of city limits.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Kind of like Cattle Trail is on the west side.
Yeah.
So, this, the more we keep going into this, I'm trying to find a way in order to have this an organized discussion. And not getting to that point. But I think just a little bit of discussion tonight and trying to break it into those 4 or 5 criteria.
Yeah.
Or maybe one additional regarding, which streets need on both sides or
Right.
one side. Will help have the discussion be organized.
Yeah.
Because then we're not venturing off into 100 different tangents, which staff has done that multiple times over the last 2 months, so. But it is a difficult discussion, and I think it's important regarding the pedestrian pathways around town.
Yeah.
And leaving it without any discussion or without any response to different sections of town suddenly not having the sidewalk creates other problems. Some of them unintended by what's happening. And it relates to the safe routes to school, it relates to getting people to commercial areas so they can actually go to work or go to shop or go to do things. I had a meeting just last week of people with additional discussion about, again, trying to get pedestrian routes out to the commercial corridor on K-27. How to get people out there safely.
That brings up another question. So I know there's a committee or something here in town that they're doing a walk path here around town or something?
The Topside Trail Committee, yeah.
So is that tied into this, or is that totally separate?
Well, it's separate right now. The Topside Trail itself they do more than what's required regarding sidewalks. But the trail path minimum is often, instead of the 5 feet minimum, the ADA is more 8 feet or 10 feet. Because if you're on a bicycle using that path, that's gotta be that much wider.
Right.
And so those things come into play. But that's hard to do. It's easy to do in park areas or open areas. And like where it comes from Pioneer Park up to Stever Park,
Right.
and then over to the college or south of college. It's easy to do that in areas, but then you try to do that once you get to actual residential neighborhoods.
Sure.
Yeah, you can't do that. So. So why don't we come back with, rather than floundering around with this, is come with a much more structured discussion.
Sounds good.
And we'll have that, and if the city manager would give good direction to the building official, that is better. So we'll have to talk with the city manager about that.
Yes, we'll talk.
Okay. So moving on, reports. Wally, anything to report?
No, I don't have anything to report. Observations, hearsays from people in the community, but is
Sure.
that what you want to hear?
Maybe.
Oh, I don't know. I got a couple of guys that I coffee with that they're so concerned about some guy on Kansas Avenue that has 19 vehicles parked in his yard. You guys are probably aware of that. It'd be
Kansas.
about 4
One of the
blocks south of
pickups.
where I live.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep, I
Okay.
know. Yep, I know.
Yep, we're well aware of that particular property, I think.
And then another property on 16th, about, what, 3 blocks east of Cattle Trail? It looks like all their furniture is outside. You aware of that one? I don't know how people live like that, but,
Well, we took away one residence that he had. And we
okay.
cleaned his residence that was just north of that lot.
Uh-huh.
And now he's moved to the house, and there's lots of stuff out in the yard, and to the garage on that property as well. So we have been in communication with that gentleman. So we've taken care of one property, we're en route to the second.
I've had other comments about the noise ordinance. You guys ever hear anything about the noise ordinance? We supposedly have one,
We do.
but I don't think the police enforce it,
You have to call and actually make a report on it.
do you? Okay,
And once you make that report, they then can come and check it out and enforce it. But normally they're not in the areas where it is occurring when it is occurring. So unless they have a report of it happening and a statement from somebody, there's not much they can do unless they actually physically observe it.
And the noise ordinance is one of the most difficult ordinances to enforce,
oh, I bet it is.
just in general. And it often goes a lot higher than what would seem to be responsible,
Yeah.
what responsible folks would do.
That's all I've got, Matt.
Okay. Fair enough. Grady.
I'm not in the loop like Wally is.
You gotta go to coffee more.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing then?
I have nothing.
Okay. Yeah, nothing from me either. So staff can't, anything?
I do have one thing. We have signed or had the city commission approved an agreement with Community Matters Incorporated to do some work regarding reviewing for our codes for housing, and to have a general discussion about it and see if there's anything that the city needs to do to assist with housing needs regarding the codes. As part of their proposal, they're going to be contacting each member of the planning commission and the city commission and having interviews, if you guys are agreeable to that, and discussing and she said it'll probably take about a half hour, maybe a tad more, it just depends how much you guys talk, more than what her questions are. But try to get the lay of the land regarding what your guys' thoughts on different parts of the housing question. And then looking for once they've conducted those interviews here in the next few weeks, looking for a joint meeting between the planning commission and city commission to then go over that and then have a facilitated conversation regarding if there's anything we need to do, either add to codes or look for it in a plan unit development or, all types of different tools. What is it appropriate to add those if we need to assist with the housing question? So, if you guys are agreeable to, I'll give out the contact information for, Barbara Cole is the principal with Community Matters Incorporated. And I'll find out whether it'll be her or it'll be someone else with the organization that'll be contacting. I think it'll be her. And, but just expect that in the next, couple, 3 weeks at some point. And then, you guys can let me know what would be a good time to call. We can do that by email and, she can give you a call and then get that interview taken care of. So, and then I'll ask you also what would be a good night for a joint meeting with the city commission, probably in November timeframe then, so.
Okay. Sounds good.
That's all I have.
Okay. Zach? Good?
I reported everything already.
All right. With that, moving on to September 19th minutes. Anybody see any additions, changes, or edits to last meeting minutes? Not here either, so I'd entertain a motion to approve minutes.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the minutes of September 19th.
So move.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion passes. And with that, ready to get out of here? I move we adjourn.
Good idea.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay?